too. If you've ever played in a band, you know his name. In fact, musical people all over the world know his name. He invented a rubber mouthpiece for horns and turned this area into the band instrument capital of the world. Maybe part of that title is connected to the fact that the oldest continuously existing college band in the nation is based at a little school on the north end of South Bend. Oh yeah, they've been known to have a pretty good football team too. It's a little known fact, but the Notre Dame marching band is older than their football team by 41 years. 1887 for the football team, 1846 for the band. Well, whether it's the band or the sports teams or the academics or the spirit, the University of Notre Dame is one impressive place. It was only a few years before the Studebakers got started here, 1842 to be exact, that Father Edward Sorin started the school. In the early years, the university only graduated about 12 students a year, but they received a classic education of humanities, poetry, rhetoric, philosophy, languages, music, and drawing. The oldest building on campus is the main building. It was built in 1864, and that beautiful gold dome is actual paper-thin strips of 23-karat gold. There was a tradition back in the 1800s. Undergraduates were not allowed to use the front steps. It was said that if they used those steps before they graduated, their education would be doomed and they'd never graduate. Well, knowing that, I had to go up those steps. There's about 140 other buildings on campus, and hopefully undergrads are spending lots of time here. The Hesburgh Library. Every visitor to Notre Dame has to spend time on the south end of Hesburgh Library. That's where you'll see the 132-foot mosaic of Jesus, officially known as the Word of Life. You notice I said officially it's known as the Word of Life. Well, Notre Dame is known to have a pretty good football program. And from right across the way at the Notre Dame Stadium, you can see Jesus on the library through the goalposts. So most people lovingly refer to the image as Touchdown Jesus, with no disrespect intended, of course. Anybody who's ever had a television turned on a Sunday afternoon knows about Notre Dame football and the Notre Dame Stadium. Most fans call it the house that Rockne built in honor of Newt Rockne. But the stadium pays homage to all of Notre Dame's coaches, not just Newt. After all, they've been playing for well over 100 years. When you're on the Notre Dame campus, you naturally feel all the sports history, but there's something you feel even more. This university is founded on deep religious beliefs. That's what you feel more than anything, and there's a couple of spots where that feeling's really strong. The first one is the Basilica of the Sacred Heart, with its cross that tops out at 230 feet, and the Grotto of Our Lady of Lourdes, which sits right behind the basilica. If you need time to be alone and reflect, this is the place. If you'd prefer to reflect on football, just head down the road to the College Football Hall of Fame. There's memorials and memorabilia here from all the college teams. While you're there, you can see if you're ready for the big time. There's another Hall of Fame here in South Bend and Elkhart. It got its start when a local guy built a trailer in his garage for his own family to move in. Pretty soon other people were doing the same thing, and that was the birth of an entire industry right here in northern Indiana. Today, this area holds the title as the RV capital of the world because so many recreational vehicle companies are based here. The RV and Motorhome Hall of Fame explains it all as you move along an indoor highway. Hey, where's the satellite TV and the microwave? Who would have guessed that Mae West had a motorhome? Paramount Pictures had it built for her to get from one movie set to another. The chauffeur did the driving, and she relaxed in the back. Well, at least when she wasn't smoking cigars and playing cards with the guys. Here's a tip for you when you're in the South Bend Elkhart area. Stop and get Mom a Mother's Day card and tell her it's from the hometown of Frank Herring, the guy who invented Mother's Day. If you and your mom don't get along, forget the card and visit Dr. Miles' place, the guy who invented Alka-Seltzer. You know, if I had to pick just a handful of things about this area that really stand out, I'd have to include the large Amish community. They're a largely misunderstood group. A lot of people think they're just stuck in time, but it's more than that. They hold some really strong convictions. It was explained to me like this. Generally speaking, the Amish are conservative Protestants within the Swiss Mennonite movement who believe in preserving the traditions of 17th and 18th century Mennonites. While the average modern farmer takes advantage of this, you won't see any electrical lines dropping into an Amish farm. It'd connect them with society too much and be considered an indulgence. The TV antennas and satellite dishes that you see on most rural homes won't be seen on an Amish home. The entertainment alone is a negative, plus it could lead to other desires and indulgences. I wanted to learn more about the Amish lifestyle, so I headed to a small town just to the east of the South Bend Elkhart area called Shipshewana. Since it was in the morning, the first thing I wanted to find was a bakery to satisfy that sweet tooth. Just off the beaten path was the Bread Box Bakery and Cafe, where everything is Amish made. When I walked in and saw the shelves packed full of breads, rolls, Danish, apple butter, and jellies, I knew I was as close to bakery heaven as a person could get. Then, all of a sudden, this huge cinnamon roll jumps out at me. It was at least 4 by 4 square and almost as tall, and covered in a beautiful cream cheese frosting. Now that's a sweetaholic's breakfast. I was asking so many questions that before you know it, I'm in the back getting Bakery Lesson 101. And this is Kelly. She is one of the owners of the Bread Box. And you know what? I was amazed by all of the products you guys have here. How many products do you have?
Oh my gosh, hundreds. Hundreds.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many. We make everything here, and
Okay.
it's all made by the Amish women.
Okay.
And so we start from scratch and do it all by hand.
Okay. And I should point out that out of respect for the Amish, they don't like to have their photograph taken
Right.
or video.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, are you trying to torture me here? I see you pull out a whole pan of these cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, they're ready to frost, and they're very good. So don't lick your fingers because they are for customers, you know. And
Oh, you're going to let me actually frost some of these?
if you're daring enough.
If
I
I'm
think
daring.
you can handle it.
But if I get some frosting on my fingers, I can lick when I'm done. When I'm all done.
When
I'm all done.
Yes, when you're done.
Okay, let's see what we can do. Why don't you show me your style here?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. First, we have to cut them. And obviously, there's a certain number here on the tray. So we'll cut them nice and neat. Now, sometimes they're not exactly the same size because they are handmade. So we fudge a little bit, you know, if we have to.
I want that big one back in the
Yeah.
corner. Okay, so explain the frosting technique here.
Okay, well, it's not necessarily a technique, but you want to get a lot on because that's the good part, obviously.
Okay, you want to smear it on.
Yeah, you want to smear it on.
Sure.
You got to hold it, yep, in your
Okay.
hand because we do it. That way you get it on all the edges and the corners and everything.
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
Okay, so we're going to actually transfer them to a different pan.
Okay,
once
as you
they're
do them.
frosted. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we'll watch you do one, and then we'll see if I learn this technique.
Okay, all right. So we get our frosting here. Now this is a bucket of
Okay.
frosting.
Okay.
Delicious.
I'm in love with the bucket.
So you just get it on until you can't see any brown, obviously through there, and then get it on all the edges.
Do you know the calorie count on one of these?
No, we don't want to know.
Kelly tried to finish my frosting lesson, but there were some technical difficulties with the size of the gloves. I did get to smear frosting all over another cinnamon roll just for me, and just like a little kid, I wanted to eat it as soon as possible. So we took a quick look at the canning area where they make all of their own jellies, jams, and salsas. Then it was out to the front porch where I was in cinnamon roll heaven. As I was sitting in the rocking chair devouring that cinnamon roll, I spotted an Amish gentleman who was offering rides in his carriage. I asked the folks at the bakery, and they said Sam, the driver, was a great guy and wouldn't be offended by anything. I still asked him if he cared if I brought along the smallest camera I had with me. He was very gracious and said he didn't care at all. Well, out of a mutual respect for each other, I kept the camera pointed down the road, and he offered to answer any questions I might have. Hey, I gotta tell you, before we ride too far, I found out on this ride that I'm allergic to horses. Sam told me that giving rides is his retirement. Now, do you operate a farm too, in addition to doing this?
Not anymore.
No?
I did it for about 37 years.
Okay. So this is your retirement,
Yep.
huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it.
Sam said he gets all kinds of questions too.
Yeah, all kind of questions get thrown at me. I always like to answer them as well as I know how.
So I asked him about how everyone wants to commercialize on the Amish, but the Amish don't commercialize on themselves.
If we get too commercialized, then we ain't Amish anymore.
His whole attitude on commerce was summed up like this.
Well, I always say if I don't like it, I'll stay home. Then there's one left.
I gotta tell you, I'm really glad I took that buggy ride. We shared a few laughs, and it took some of the mystery out of the Amish traditions. I had to have one last encounter with Amish tradition before I headed back to the motorhome. The Essen House Amish Buffet. It was great. I can definitely vouch for the Amish when it comes to cooking. There's no need to wait for a Studebaker Meet to visit South Bend and Elkhart, Indiana. There's always plenty of great things to see and do here. Hey, till next time, I'm Jim Barnett. Gotta go.
If you have a destination idea for Jim or you want to check out other episodes of Jim Barnett's Gotta Go, head to jimbarnett.tv.
I love to travel, but there's no place like home. Hello, Peoria.